Thanks Andy. Now this month I'm here to talk about this relatively new product from Deluxe Materials. It's called Brush Magic and it's aimed to clean, as you'd expect, brushes but also airbrushes. Now we're going to test this out in a few moments, but first let's have a look at how I got on with it last month cleaning Iwata's custom Micron airbrush. Yes, thanks. Now this here is one of the very latest custom Micron airbrushes to be released from airbrushes.com, and it really has to be said that this thing is a truly state-of-the-art piece of equipment. And well, airbrushes.com have very kindly provided us this review sample. It only seems fair to put it to the test. And we're also going to use one of these trays from airbrushes.com. It's designed by Iwata, the same manufacturer as the airbrush. It'll make sure that all those little parts that we take to pieces won't go flying. And we'll also be using some of this. It's Brush Magic from Deluxe Materials, and I can't recommend it strongly enough. Essentially, whenever you've used an airbrush, to clean all of the components out to make sure it's in tip-top condition, you need a solvent, and a proper solvent, and this one, well, it does the job, and I haven't found anything better yet. So, that's what we're going to use. Let's put it all to the test. So as you can see there, using the brush, I was able to get into all the nooks and crannies of the airbrush and clean it all up perfectly. But you could argue that was an easy test because the paint hadn't really dried onto the airbrush. So I'm going to put Brush Magic through its paces now and really show what it can do. Now for many years, the traditional way to clean brushes like this when you're using enamel paints is to use some household white spirit. But there is a problem with this, and that's that white spirit isn't actually a brush cleaner, although it is used for the purpose. All it does really is thin down the paint. Now, of course, you have to keep thinning it down and thinning it down, and that means that you're going to have to use an awful lot of white spirit just to clean one brush. Brush Magic, on the other hand, is specifically designed to clean all sorts of paint, from acrylics, water-based to enamels. And the good thing with this product is that it actually can be used with water. So this here, as you can see, is a flat brush. It's been used many times and washed with purely white spirit. And you can see that down in the right down in the roots of the paintbrush there's a lot of paint starting to accumulate. And despite it being washed over time, those little particles have accumulated down in the roots. So we need something, you can even see it coming out as I flick the brush there. We need a product that can get down and dissolve all of that rather than just, well, thinning it out. So that's where Brush Magic comes into play. Now I'll go give this a little clean through with Brush Magic, but just to show you what Brush Magic can do, I've even gone to the length of setting this one in paint completely overnight. This is rock solid, as you can see. It's not going anywhere, and we'll dissolve this completely with Brush Magic and try and make it look like new. So as you can see, the twist top on Brush Magic makes it really easy to take out small amounts of the paint. Now Brush Magic comes in a 125ml bottle, which means that you should have enough there as, well, at least 3 of these similar sized bottles of white spirit, because you don't need to use as much. And the twist top makes it really easy to pour out small amounts. You can see I'm just gently working the Brush Magic into the bristles of the brush. And this is quite stubborn actually, because this paint has been left in for some time. So just drying it out a little bit now to see what state the brush is in. And you can see, well, we've got down further in the bristles, and to get right to the bottom you would probably need to soak this in it overnight. But even that, you can see, is no longer solid at the bottom there. So as you can see, in a matter of a few seconds we've actually removed the majority of the paint from the bristles of this brush. And that's the worst case scenario that you're likely to face because it's been accumulated over such a long time. Now coming back to that brush that you saw a few moments ago, which was absolutely rock solid, well, let's test it out on this. This is the example of a brush that we've forgotten to wash out. It's been left overnight, so the paint is relatively fresh compared to the last one, so this should come out no problem at all. So as you can see, after a few minutes, Brush Magic has broken down all of the paint in the bristles, and it's now much more flexible than it was before. Well, I'd say that's pretty conclusive. It looks brand new. Cleaned right the way down to the bottom of the bristles. So for those of you who still aren't sure about Brush Magic, well, here's a handy tip to know. If you look at the size of the bottle of Brush Magic and compare it to the size of your traditional bottle of white spirit, you'll note that there's a big difference, and you're going to probably be thinking, well, that's not very good economy. Well, actually, you'd be surprised, because this amount of Brush Magic is all you're going to need compared to if you were using this amount of white spirit. Now, there's another good handy tip to know as well, and that's that Brush Magic doesn't smell at all. It's completely odourless, which is nice to know when you're working at home in your workshop or wherever you are. You're not going to have that constant smell of white spirit. Anyway, I'd like to set up a small experiment to test how fast Brush Magic will act compared to white spirit. So I've got two identical containers. We'll place some white spirit in one, some Brush Magic in the other. I've also got two identical brushes which have been left in paint for the same amount of time. Well, let's see who wins. So the brushes have now been soaking for 5 minutes, and on the face of it, it would appear that the white spirit is more effective than the Brush Magic, but that isn't the case, because despite the colour and all of the paint that has actually been taken out of the brush, it hasn't actually gone down deep into the bristles, and that's because it's essentially just thinned the paint down a bit. Brush Magic here, as I'll demonstrate in a bit when we swipe these two on a bit of paper towel, has actually chemically broken down the paint, and you can see there are solid lumps that have clearly come off the bristles there, whereas this is just a bit of the pigment that's come out of the brush. Anyway, if I just hold those both in the same hand, I'm just going to swipe these two brushes now on this bit of paper towel to find out which of these two liquids has been the most effective at removing the paint. So after a few swipes, you can see that the brush to the left there, which was the one that we used with Brush Magic, is slightly cleaner than the one that we used with white spirit. Now, of course, you will need to swill it around a little bit more and clean it properly, but it just shows that Brush Magic is slightly faster at cleaning than white spirit. So that means that, of course, it's more effective at cleaning over time. Now, of course, you'll be able to check out the full details of this product, Brush Magic, on Deluxe Materials website, which is www.deluxematerials.com. For availability and full details, check with your local stockist. Get yourself one of these bottles, you won't go wrong.